Hello. Today we're going to change it up a bit and talk about something that gets a little scary. Tell them what it is, Lise.
Yes, today we are going to be talking about the winter storm of Texas 2021.
Scary. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had what would be considered a very nice day. Right, Lise?
A very nice day.
Yeah. Let's take a look, shall we? As we get ready to find out how life can change unexpectedly and quickly. Let's see what it looked like way back then.
It's a beautiful day here in Copperas Cove. Wishing y'all were here.
We even had to mow the lawn today.
Yeah. Look at that sunshine, y'all.
The snowless lawn.
Even little Oreo got to come out and visit.
Hi, Oreo. So nice.
Probably go for a walk here in a little bit. It's about 60 degrees or so with a nice breeze blowing.
Sunshine.
Wish y'all were here.
But little did we know how quickly things were going to change for the worse.
Oh yeah. Just a little while later, this is what happened.
The Paul Storian here, as we invite you to have a look around Winter Storm Uri 2021, Texas.
Here we go. Buckle up. Y'all, the blizzard has arrived. Look at that, y'all. And it's frigid. It's like, I don't know, 7 degrees out here in Copperas Cove. Brr.
All right, so here we are in the middle of I guess the equivalent of a blizzard for these here parts. With the palm tree in the snow.
Okay, so that was Sunday, February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah, it was Valentine's Day, wasn't it?
And it was very cold, and the temperatures just kept dropping, and it got into the negatives later on that evening, I think.
Now, keep in mind, this part of Central Texas, this is pretty much unheard of for this kind of weather to happen. And it had already snowed a couple of times. They say it only snows here once a year every, I don't know, 5-10 years.
Yes.
This was our third snowfall in a matter of just a couple of months.
Yeah.
And this time it got really cold for this part of the globe.
Yeah, and we also had like a wintry mix with it. That was the snow you saw, but there was also sleet and rain, and it turned into just a solid sheet of ice.
Now, the thing about ice, snow in these parts, they do not have snow plows that come and plow the streets. Salt is not readily available anywhere. So you're talking almost impossible road conditions. You're really supposed to stay off the road
Yes.
in those conditions. They close them, I guess, or they just tell everybody to stay off. And then it's not just driving, walking is extremely hazardous as well. Ice was everywhere.
A lot of people fell and hurt themselves. And we live in hill country, so our driveway is on an incline. You have to put your parking brake on when you park. And so ice and an incline, bad news. So we were being extremely, extremely careful. It was dangerous.
Yeah. So our only source of information, our only lifeline was our phones. And the charging was going down as the battery drained.
Yes.
We didn't have power in the house, so we preserved our telephones as much as we could. We only used them for almost exclusively essential info that we could find out, and
which was scarce as well. Yeah. We weren't getting a lot of news on what was going on.
A lot of people were kind of closed down, and we did realize after a couple of days that we could go out to our car because we had those things you could plug into the car and charge.
Very carefully go to the car.
Very carefully, and it'd slowly charge up. And even then it was acting funny in the cold temperatures, so we didn't know how long we'd have our phones for. So we hardly took any pictures at all. We didn't take any videos during this time because it seemed too dangerous. This was
Yeah.
This was getting
We were
iffy.
in survival mode.
Survival mode, yeah. All right. So we were already in a dire situation. But that night, things got really bad.
Yeah. So we went to bed about 11 o'clock that night, and we know exactly at 2:07 a.m. our power went out. Now, we had known they talked about doing rolling blackouts where they said you would have like 1 hour without power and then they would turn it back on and shift it to somebody else. So we got up. We know it was 2:07, by the way, because he has severe obstructive sleep apnea and has a BiPAP machine, and it went off, so it woke us up.
Soon as it turned off, the power went off. I was like,
"Wake up!" Yeah.
Oh,
something's wrong.
That's how I knew what time it was. I looked at my clock on my phone right away.
So we stayed up till 3:07, thinking the power would come back on.
In the 1 hour interval.
It did not.
Nope. And then 4:07 a.m. came. Nothing changed. 5:07 a.m. came, and we realized
hour after hour passed.
Something's not working as planned here.
It started getting colder and colder in the house.
No heat,
no electricity.
No electricity.
And very little information on what was going on, other than they tried to do the rolling blackouts and the grid failed. So we had no idea when we were going to get power restored. So we were being very careful how we used our phones. We didn't have the battery power. We didn't have a way to recharge them. So we were getting scarce information here and there. And also trying to stay warm. We were huddled up in the bed together. We were up all night.
We did figure out, though, that later, if I hadn't already said, that we could recharge our cars. After a couple of days, we could go to our car and recharge the battery.
But keep in mind, it was still a blizzard going on outside with this rain-sleet mix.
It was freezing.
And it was very cold and
the
frozen
car
sidewalks. And
stuff wasn't acting right, so we were, being very scarce with our phone use.
Yes. Yes.
And I could not go to sleep, and we were really hoping that the next day came and it was daylight out. Outside. On the inside, it was still dark. Of course, no power.
Yeah.
And it was so cold.
And they told you to keep your blinds pulled, to keep in the heat as much as you could. So it was still very, very dark in here. We tried to kind of sleep off and on, but with his sleep apnea, it was not happening.
Couldn't do it. I could not go to sleep. I tried. I would fall asleep maybe for, I don't know.
Every 20 seconds.
20 seconds,
and I would wake up gasping for air.
So I went this whole time pretty much without any sleep. But in the middle of this, we also learned that not only did we have the power out that was going on through town, the icy, obstructive roads that you couldn't get through.
They were advising do not go out.
We also found out through looking at our phones that some places had pipes that were busting because the water was going out. Now, we knew to turn our water on and little drips, which we're hoping we don't get charged money for that lot.
We wrapped our spigots out on the outside of the house as well.
Because we knew that because we lived in cold weather before.
Yes.
But some people, and I don't know, it might not have been avoidable, they had pipes burst, which meant they had no water in their house. Now, we were lucky as far as we didn't. We didn't have any heat. It was cold.
So no showers other than him.
I took showers. I took cold showers.
I did not.
It didn't affect me.
I cleaned up as best I could without showers, which even that took. Just going to the bathroom and exposing yourself was frigid cold, and having to wash your hands in the cold water. It was just so cold. You felt like you were never going to get warm again.
And then we also learned that people who, on top of losing their power, on top of some of them having no water, some of them who did have water had to boil their water, and some of them had to do that without power. So how was that going to work?
And some people had flooded houses from the pipes bursting, and we got very little information from anyone about what was going to happen. Were we not going to have power for days, weeks, months? Nobody had any answers.
Nope.
And we had very limited time on our phones to look things up.
Yeah, the power company here was called Encore, and the only thing we could see every time we tried to look and waste valuable battery on our thing, but we're trying to figure out when it's coming back on, it would always say, We don't know. I mean, the result was we don't know when it's going to end. It might have been, if it said something a couple hours later, it might have changed. The bottom line was we have no idea when your power is coming back on.
Yeah, and they kept changing their story, saying some people, were chosen to go off the grid. Some people had, power failures because of the storm. And we knew that wasn't right because we all lost power at the same time. It was like...
Well, as far as we know, we don't really know everything, but we were limited in what we could know.
Yeah.
And also... Again, I can't remember if I had said this, but we're in the middle of a global pandemic, so we don't want to be around people without masks on. We're trying to be safe.
Yeah.
And so we were so limited in what we could do. Now, we were talking about my sleep apnea, right?
Yes.
And how I could not sleep because I kept having that. Now, when one of these times was, we had lost power. We've been out of power for a while. Lisa did take her phone and record me struggling to breathe. So we're going to play that clip here. You got to set it up?
It's very dark. You might not be able to see a whole lot. This was our reality. This is what it looked like.
Here we go.
February 16th, 2021. Going on third night of no power. It's very cold. And Paul doesn't have a sleep apnea machine.
No machine. Okay, so what you just heard there was me snoring in the middle of the night, whatever time it was, no power. You could briefly see, I forgot Lisa did take that video during that time. Kind of a vital video for us, but you could kind of see a candle during that time. We had one or two candles. It was the only way that we could keep warm. And really, I mean, with a little candle, you're not going to heat up much of a room. And it was so scary for me because I just couldn't fall asleep. I would go in, I don't know, 10 seconds, 20 seconds at the most, maybe, and I'll wake up gasping for air. I did not know which breath was going to be my last to fall. And days of this.
He would stop breathing, and like I said, he has severe.
Yeah, this isn't a mild type of sleep apnea.
Basically, the machine is a BiPAP. It breathes in and out for him.
By the way, just to give you an example of how bad my sleep apnea is, when I was originally diagnosed, they told me that the state that I was in at the time, I was the second worst case in the entire state. So this is danger, fatal possible level of...
And plus, he is a stroke survivor. He has had a stroke. Yeah. It was very scary, and it started getting more and more desperate. It's really hard for us to even watch the video, and I had totally forgotten I'd taken it until we started going through our phone. But
our anxiety levels got through the roof.
Got really
when it got
bad.
Now, keep in mind, because there was no power and it was so cold, and other issues, we had to pretty much stay in bed all day as much as we could. We would get up to eat. We had a couple of things to eat. I couldn't eat hot food, but we could eat. We could drink. We had some water and
peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Basically what we were surviving on.
And they were good. I still like them.
We prepared as much as we could. They told us the storm was coming, and we were prepared with things like that to eat, but we weren't prepared for days upon days with no power. They did not tell us that was, a possibility, and we just felt...
It was so scary staying in that bed almost all day under what covers we had, and
it felt like you were in the Twilight Zone.
I'm so thankful we had what's that called, a Sherpa blanket. Oh my gosh, that thing was a lifesaver.
And
we didn't have power.
And a weighted blanket.
Yeah,
that saved
we just
us.
basically stayed under our blankets in bed for the majority of the day.
As much as we could.
Yeah. Now, I did get up, take a cold shower. That wasn't too bad for me.
And every day, like when the sun started going down, which was the only light we had, it just felt like the world was closing in on you, and that anxiety started back up. And you knew that he wasn't going to sleep. And if he wasn't sleeping, I wasn't sleeping. And you started getting into this state of like, I don't know, anxiety-ridden, felt like you were just in a cave by yourselves.
And there was no hope of... ever coming out of it, as far as we knew. That every time that we tried to look, there was nothing that said it was ever going to end. Nothing. It just, we don't know.
So
scary.
At 4:00 in the morning on February 16th, I started calling around to local hotels to see if they had power.
She was desperate.
We had driven uptown, I think, that day. And
we made our way out scarcely. We were kind of scared, but we needed gas.
We knew a little bit better about how to drive in those conditions because we came from a cold state originally. But we had to be very, very careful, especially in this hill country, because you could get stuck on an incline. We got stuck on an incline trying to go up a place.
And we were running out of gas, and that gas was our only source of power to charge our phones and to find info. And also there, we found out, because of the situation going on, there was a shortage of gas. Places that had gas were running out. People that could find places were crowded. It was... a gas station that you went to might not be open because it might be out of power. If you get there and they are open, it might be full of people and it might be empty of gas. You never know. I did take a picture of a local establishment, and if you can see here, there's a bunch of cars there signed up to get fuel. Gas was $2.25 a gallon at that point. But there are people standing outside the door in line. Now, I did make my way to this gas station. Got the gas pump out. There was no signs or anything. Started pumping the gas, and nothing happened. Nothing. Found out they were out of gas. They didn't have any notes or anything, but they were out. But this place was so full of people, they were packed out the door, as you could see in the line in this photo. And so we...
And that was just one gas station.
There
were many that weren't even open because they didn't have power. And the ones that were open were packed full of people and quickly running out of gas.
So... not only were we, as you could tell by the people at the gas station there, brave enough to venture out, that there was a lot of people venturing out. The roads were packed. People were trying to find places that were open. They were sparse. Ace Hardware was open. Some grocery stores were not, but Ace Hardware was. But a lot of places were closed down. And here's a couple of photos of the traffic during this time. Now remember, this isn't a regular day. Roads are very icy. We heard of people that would go out, and we heard of accidents and stuff. Yeah. The day before, especially. That's why we didn't want to risk it. But
so this was Tuesday, the 16th. So we had already been without power all day, all night.
All day Monday.
Basically all night Sunday night, all day Monday, and then this was Tuesday, the 16th.
Yeah, and we needed to get gas. We knew.
Yeah, we were venturing out, and people didn't have water, some of them, so they were going out looking for water. Food, if there were food establishments open, trying to find food.
But if you can see in the picture that there's cars all over. Now remember, this is dangerous driving for people. The roads conditions weren't great. But there was a little, in all the middle of this, there was a funny little anecdote. Only a couple of fast food restaurants were open. Burger King, well, that was an exception. We drove by Burger King. Burger King was completely packed.
Had a line all the way
out into the road, through the
all the way through the parking lot,
so
into the road.
We didn't go there because we thought, oh, that's way too. There's going to take too long. We went back in town. On our way back through, there was nobody there. We're like, oh, they emptied out.
There were only a few cars.
Yeah, there was
in the drive-through. So we thought, well, maybe.
We went. There was a guy I think in front of us. We waited for him to go. We went up there. Come to find out, there was no power. Open. There was nobody there.
There was a line, all that line, and they weren't even open. People were going through the drive-thru.
So we drove through Moortown looking for gas and food. We came back a little bit later. It was packed
again
to the road again,
still not
and
open.
It was no power. So Burger King got a lot of business from people.
We were desperate people
that they didn't get the business for. But that was pretty funny. That was kind of a highlight.
Yeah.
Also, I'll show you a picture too. Here's a picture of the roads around these parts.
Yes, they were very, very bad, especially not the main roads, but this is a main road we're going to show you. But the ones on
back
our
roads
streets were very bad.
If you were on a more traveled highway,
you were risking life and limb to get out. But you had to. I mean, you didn't have a choice.
I mean, people were sliding. We did see some people with the cars were spinning and stuff. And the tires, were spinning, not the cars. The tires were spinning. They get stuck. Somebody would have to push them. Like we were in a McDonald's drive-thru.
People were being very helpful.
In a McDonald's drive-thru, it's like every other car got stuck right before they would turn into where they could order their stuff On the day McDonald's was open. They were not open every day, but on the day they were, they'd get stuck. In a place where we did get gas, I finally got to where we got gas. They only had premium gas left, so I had to get premium, which we get anyway. But I went to tell the guy behind me I was having trouble with the pump, and we were on an incline. I went to go walk back up. I couldn't do it. So he told me I could use his car to hang on to go up the hill, and his girl with him started cracking up.
Living in hill country on ice, it's an adventure.
Now, another thing that happened during this time, because there was power out, people, it was a dangerous time. People were cold. So the city had what they called warming shelters. They had a warming shelter. They had they put it at the Civic Center. And apparently things didn't go as planned there either. I spoke to Deputy Chief Gary Yun, who was also the
Emergency Management Coordinator
for the
city.
So I had a chat with him, and I'm going to let him tell you in his own words what happened with the warming shelter here in town. This is just, keep in mind everything else that's going on. This is happening in the middle of it. Here we go. Stay tuned. Now, I think I heard that this place was a shelter when the power was out.
Yes.
But the power went out here.
That's correct. This was a warming center, and while we opened it up as a warming center, the power originally went down, and then we immediately moved over to our city library. We stayed at our city library until we were able to open up a second warming center on the north side of town at one of the elementary schools. While we had the two warming centers running, the library facility, one of the pipes sprung a leak.
Oh my gosh.
Then everybody over to the warming center at the elementary school. The elementary school was holding everybody. We got the power back on here, and then the elementary school had a pipe break. So then we moved it back over here. So,
oh my gosh, like everything could go wrong went wrong for you guys.
You bet, but
you did it.
We were immediately moving people. We were moving them with our van and
oh my gosh.
So we didn't have to close anybody out.
So as you could hear from Deputy Chief Yun there, it was quite a harrowing ordeal for everyone involved, but they worked it out. Whew, that just sounded rough.
Yeah. And speaking of warming centers, it was very, very cold. We had sub-zero temperatures, which never happens out here. And it was getting colder by the minute in our house. Luckily, we live in a house that is brick, and it's pretty well insulated. Like right before this all happened was the first time we had to turn our heat on all winter, which was wonderful. But I have a condition called Raynaud's, which makes your fingers and toes and ears and nose have circulation issues that the blood supply doesn't get to them in cold temperatures, and stress doesn't help either. And so that made it a little challenging for me. So I was constantly bundled up. As you can see in the pictures, I was wearing a t-shirt, a hoodie, the hood over my head to hold in the heat, my big thick robe, gloves, and we were mostly under the blankets in the bed, just trying to stay warm, trying to huddle together and use our body heat to help warm each other and just stay as warm as we possibly could in all of this. 2 pairs of socks, and I wear shoes around the house anyway, so 2 pairs of socks, shoes, because it was frigid. Speaking of the cold, our windows were getting a little bit of puddling around the rim of the sill. So I put a towel out on our living room one, and the next day it was a solid ice. You can see in the picture that there's ice actually forming on the sill of the window. That's on the inside of our house, and I'm not sure what the temperature was, but it felt like it was like 40 degrees in the house. And then the other one is our recycle bin, just covered in icicles, and you couldn't even get in it if you tried. And that's basically what everything looked like.
All right, so next up we want to talk about something we did briefly mention was the slipperiness of the ice. It's dangerous, we said, not only for the cars, but for walking. Now, there are a couple of pictures here. Here is a photo of our back porch step, and you can see the ice formed on it. Now, this is straight down from the
door.
garbage cans
Yes.
that had the icicles on them. So just stepping outside was dangerous. We could
And
slip.
the grass was covered in ice. Like you couldn't step through the grass for safety. It even was slick, which was unbelievable.
And I also have a picture of, as you can see in front of what apparently used to be the movie theater years ago. You could see, now my green shirt's reflecting off because we're inside the car. Okay. So that's what that green is. But you can see it is a solid sheet of ice right in front of
Thick
that thing
ice,
on
yes.
the sidewalk. I mean, it looked so dangerous. As a matter of fact, going back to my buddy Fire Chief Gary Young, we're going to see what he has to say about things that happened in town. Let's have a listen, shall we?
Did we have any injuries or deaths or anything like that you know of around town?
Numerous injuries.
Oh boy.
Primarily falls and winter weather type falls and such.
All right. So as we did here, we did have some injuries around town, resulting from the slickness of the ice, most likely. And here's another photo of downtown. And in this one, you could see in front of the old storefronts, thick, solid sheet of ice covering what appears to be the entire sidewalk. Meaning, if you tried to walk down this thing, you probably would not succeed unless you took very small baby steps. And even then, I don't know. But there's also an amusing side to the ice. Lise, tell them about this next photo.
So the next photo is near H-E-B, which is a grocery store here, and the ice had formed the shape of the stop sign and then slid down it, and it almost looked like a lollipop. It was very strange, so we had to take a picture of that. But the ice was just so dangerous. We were being extremely careful because neither one of us needed to fall and hurt ourselves.
Now, getting back to my possibly fatal, life-threatening bout with the sleep apnea, not having any power, not being able to use my machine, we decided after several days of this, we absolutely needed to do something. And
yeah, so on the 16th, which was probably the worst night that we had of anxiety and just him not breathing and very scared, about 4 o'clock in the morning, I started calling around to local hotels, hoping that some of them had power and possibly a room. And I got a hold of one in town that had power. They did not have rooms until 2 days later. So
hotels were being booked up pretty quickly during this time.
Yeah, because everybody was in the similar boat and needed a place to stay. Some worse than us because some had, water main breaks and things. But so for the next day, not the next day, but the day after that, we booked a room.
Yeah, Lisa came and told me. She called and said the hotel had a place. I was in bed and she was out frantic and said they had a place, but it was in 2 days. I told her to call back and book it because I knew they'd be filling up and I didn't want to risk not having the.
So I called on the 16th and I got a room for the 18th.
And we took a video of us in the room. So we actually had power, was able to charge up our phones there. So we were able to take the video without worrying about losing power. So here we go. Straight into the video. Ready? Hey, Lisa, tell us where you're at and why you're here.
I'm at the Quality Inn Suites Hotel in Copperas Cove, and I am here because of the big Texas failure of 2021, where they didn't winterize the grids and we lost power for 5 nights and 4 days so far, and we had to come here to get some sleep because you had plug your machine in to sleep on. And we have had absolutely no word from the government or anybody when our power will be turned back on. Just approximations here and there. And we're tired and fed up.
We had to charge our electricity stuff here. And now, show us our best view never that we have from our hotel window.
And they're picking it up right now.
Ooh, action sequence.
The dumpster.
Best view never. That's what we get to see. We look outside our window. Which, seeing as how we thought we might be without garbage pickup, this is actually probably about the most positive thing that could come from this view right now. Here, get me. And my machine that I finally got to sleep on after several nights of going without. Finally got some sleep tonight.
We got maybe 5 or 6 hours total. I'm thinking.
So finally, after going several days without sleeping, we got a hotel room with power. I was able to plug my machine in and sleep. And here's a photo of me. At least tell us about the photo.
So the photo is when we got there, he pretty much went to bed instantly.
Yeah, I think we grabbed Whataburger in there, which you could see in the video.
Yeah,
and we ate lunch or dinner, whatever time it was.
Yeah.
and
so the check-in was at 2, and this was by 3 o'clock. He was asleep.
Yeah, I had to get some sleep. I had gone, I don't know how many days it was.
Desperate.
5.
It was
something
really
like
getting
that.
desperate.
No sleep. And I'm giving a thumbs up in this video, and you can see the mask is on me, hooked to the machine. The bed was, nice. It was warm in there. Matter of fact, it was so warm in the hotel room, we had to adjust the temperature to cool it down a little bit because whoever was in there before us had it hot.
Yeah.
But I was so thankful to get sleep. And did I sleep soundly? Could you hear me or anything?
Oh, yeah, you slept.
Yeah. Now, I slept here in this picture for a couple hours right after we got there. We got up, and then we did some other things before we actually went to bed.
Contacted some people that were concerned about
Oh,
us,
yeah, right, yeah, because we were able to look stuff up. Yeah,
we
because
were
we
able
had
to talk to people on the phone for a while. Yeah.
And I had my laptop with us, so we were able to use the internet there and charge it up. And okay, yeah, so things were starting to feel a little bit back more to normal here, and we were at least for the moment thinking, okay, maybe things are going to be okay.
Okay, so this is after the hotel stay. This would have been February 19th, transitioning into the next day. When we checked out and got home.
Oh, yeah. The hotel stay was on a Thursday.
And this
Thursday night,
was
so it
a
was a Friday morning.
Yes.
Or afternoon by the time we got home, probably.
So when we got home, the first thing Paul did was turn on the switch, but he thought he missed the wrong one, and the ceiling fan.
I turned on the switch. I thought it was the light switch, but it was the ceiling fan switch. So I thought the power wasn't on. Then I looked up and I saw the fan turning slowly. Like, wait a minute. And I turned the switch on next to it, and it was the light switch. It's like,
The light switch was on. So we were very, very happy. And then when we went back to the car to get our luggage out, our neighbor told us that it had been on since 3:40 that morning. So that was Friday, February 19th morning. So we were without power from Monday at 2:07 a.m., February 15th, until Friday, February 19th at 3:40 a.m. So that's how long we were without power.
So, will you set up this next video clip for us, Lisa?
So the next video clip is when they were coming around to turn our neighbor's power on because they had not had power yet. And this was Saturday the next day. So it would have been Saturday the 20th.
All right. Rolling. Here we go.
Okay, some of our neighbors are still without power. It's Saturday morning, but we do have Encore to the rescue. That lady there's been without power for 7 days, she told me. Yeah, right here. We're trying to help each other out and give each other power if we can. We got our outlets on the outside. We're letting people plug stuff in if they need to. He says theirs is the next transformer, so we're hoping. It's an emotional one. Thankfully, we got power yesterday morning, so we got a good night's sleep. It's a lot, y'all. Saturday, February 20th, 2021, after the big storm. There's Paul. He's just talking to people. He's got his mask on, but all of our snow and ice is melting. There's the Encore truck getting our neighbors power. Our side of the street had power since yesterday, but theirs has been, some of them, 7 days. I think most of them. So here we are. Looking up. We're at the other end of it now. So thank you, Jesus.
Okay, so we made it back home. Our power's on. The electric company's out there. Now, I wanted to point out something about the electric company guy, the Encore Guy. I got a picture here, and the Encore Guy is going over to check out the power of our neighbor across the street. He's turning on the stuff over there. But I got a chance to talk to him, and the man from Encore told me that remember, power had been out for days, and these guys were trying like frantic to get this power turned on in the middle of these conditions. So he told me he was working 17-hour days. He was sleeping 6 hours. So if you do the math, 17 plus 6 is... I believe it's 23. It's 23.
23.
So it's 24 hours a day, which meant he had 1 hour of the day to do whatever else. Shower, bathe, eat, whatever. So anyway, 17-hour days, 6 hours of sleep. He's going like crazy trying to get this stuff done. And he did tell me that one night when he got home, he stepped into his house and he took his boots off and he stepped into something maybe about this deep, maybe not quite a foot or just under a foot, from the way he showed me. And it was solid filled with water. His house had flooded. He said luckily that little crevice that was this deep he was able to get the water out of that. It didn't ruin the rest of his house. Otherwise, he would have had a very bad week, worse than he already did. Also, interestingly, he told me the night before he was driving in a neighboring town and he saw a hotel that was on fire. And apparently this was in the news the next day. Yes. The hotel had a fire happen in it because the situation with the water, the sprinklers didn't work. They burned down. Every person that was in that hotel was displaced, and almost all of them were in there because they had no power.
Right.
They're basically displaced from their homes, so they were in there to get warm. And the hotel, so there was a lot of stuff going wrong here. But also, the Encore guy told me he was happy about us coming out and talking to him because he said we were treating him nice. I think a lot of people
we were standing on the sidewalk cheering like it was a parade or something when he was coming through.
I think a lot of people were mad at Encore and they were probably not treating these guys right.
Not
but
their fault.
These are just workers trying to get people's power restored.
They're the heroes.
And so we were so happy to see in this next video, Elise.
Yes.
With the neighbors?
Yeah, the next video is of us coming home and it was getting dark out and our neighbors across the street's lights were on because they had power. Because the night before we looked out there and it was pitch black and it was so
We had power,
weird.
But the neighbors didn't.
Yes, and we felt so bad.
So here's the next clip of us getting a little excited.
Okay, what do you see behind you, Lise?
I see our neighbors have their porch lights on and their living room lights and they have power, yes. A day after we got it, but still. Thank you, Encore worker guy.
So they're happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so after we got home, found out our power was on, our neighbor's powers was on, then it was time for our next step.
Try and get some food.
Which we did hear that food was scarce because there was a rush on the grocery stores when people heard about the weather. Mm-hmm. And during the weather, as we saw in some of the pictures earlier, people were all over.
And we were trying to get food to replace the food that we lost because we lost a freezer full. They told us to prepare for the storm, and when we got to the store that time, the only thing that was there was like frozen chicken patties and frozen meatballs and things like that, which we bought and lost.
Yeah, and then the big storm hitting the power out came. So anyway, here's a clip of us heading into the store to see if there is any food to buy. So let's check this out. Here we go again.
Okay, we're getting ready to head into H-E-B at Saturday, February 20th, 2021. See if they've got food, or if they've been wiped out. These shelves are pretty bare here. And if you can see behind me, the milk juice section is totally empty here. So I see a couple of there's like creamer or something down here. That's it. And also no eggs whatsoever. Limit one eggs, and they're still out. This is the lunch meat section of H-E-B. That's it. There's just a couple items. Look at this section. This is the cookies, crackers, and bread. Nothing.
So that was The grocery store there, as you can see.
They were out of a lot of items. They did have some things. Most of the things that were left were the more expensive items. A lot of the name brand things, and like the lunch meat, you could get it at the deli, but it was a lot higher.
Let's throw these 4 pictures up so they can kind of see.
Yeah, we have some other pictures. One of them is at Walmart. We went there trying to get cat litter, which we needed for our cat, and couldn't find it anywhere in town because people were using that for their sidewalks and traction for, so we finally found that at a local pet store.
But if you could see the one where Lisa's pushing the cart through Walmart in the background, the shelves are completely empty back there. That's the produce section. And then the other section, I love this picture at H-E-B. Lisa's at the meat section, and there's like 2 hams in the freezer. Everything else is gone in the big long freezer.
Yes.
I'm on the, I don't know what section I'm in over here with the shelves are empty in the cold section. And then what does that sign say for H-E-B for the meat? It says limit 5.
Limit 5 meats.
You can only get 5 meats. And they were you said they were the expensive stuff. They weren't the cheap meats.
Yes.
Yeah. So, the grocery store, even after everything else going on, food was a little harder to find, especially the better kind that you'd kind of want.
Milk, eggs, and bread.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it.
So we were still in a bit of a fix with that. Okay, so we did get a few groceries, but as far as the area was going, things were not totally where they needed to be yet. There was still a shortage due to the busted water pipes and things going on.
We were in stage 4 water conservation. They didn't want anybody using water for anything other than drinking and hygiene, because they were trying to get water up to a certain area in the pressurized system to get it up to people that were up higher in the hill plains.
Now this was, also their drinking water. They needed water to drink, not just to do other stuff in, but to drink. So back to the hero of the hour, who is
Gary Young,
Deputy
Emergency
Chief
Management Coordinator.
Gary Young. So Gary Young steps in with his coordination of the emergency, and again, I will let him talk in his own words to say how he and his team plan to resolve the current situation with the water situation. So again, in his own words, here we go with Gary Young. Okay, the Paul Storian here. I am in front of our local Civic Center here in Copperas Cove, Texas, and back behind me, what you see is they're getting water supplies out. There are a lot of people in town that don't have water. Their water pipes busted for various reasons. They're getting ready to distribute it. And I was just talking with the deputy fire chief, and I will post that interview right after this. But the community is coming together really good here. A lot of things have happened, and we've got 70 degrees right now. Last week and just these last several days, it has been below freezing here for many days, and there's not a drop of snow in sight. This is just incredible, and things are looking up here, but they've been bleak for the last week. So we're coming through on the other side of this. Community's strong. The people are back there helping out each other. There are going to be people coming up to get water here soon. Just fantastic stuff going on right now. People helping people. Good stuff. Anyway, so I'm here at the Civic Center in Copperas Cove with
Deputy Fire Chief Gary Young.
Deputy Fire Chief Gary Young. And tell us what we're doing here.
So the city of Copperas Cove, as a result of the recent winter weather event, lost water supply in one of the major parts of our town. We lost water to about 1,200 homes. All the houses right now are currently on a boil order. The boil order is going to be in effect for a while. So we've received drinking water to distribute to those families who are impacted primarily in that part of town. And we are getting that water out right now, and it is going up to that part of town to be distributed to those families who might need drinking water in their homes.
That is completely awesome. Thank you guys so much for doing that. I'm so happy that's been happening. So again, I'm here with Deputy Chief Young.
Fire Chief Gary Young. I'm also the Emergency Management Coordinator for the city.
Yeah, so he's the guy that knows what's going on. I'm going to just get a brief clip of this, and thanks so much for letting me do the interview. Yeah.
Don't get run over.
Okay. Good advice. Thank y'all for doing this.
Boy, this has been a very different video. Not quite something I expected to do in a bit of upholstery for my channel here, but hey, we're just kind of documenting what's going on in my life right now and what's happening with us.
It was definitely a harrowing ordeal. It was very scary with Paul's sleep apnea, and it was actually life-threatening. And it was to the point where you don't know what's going to happen in the next minute, and it just seemed like it took so long. Looking back on it, it was 5 days, but it seemed a lot longer.
Yeah, it's when we're sitting in the dark and there's no power and nothing going on. It's like
you can't do anything.
Yeah. We tried to play a card game with the candles, but we couldn't see the colors of the card.
We couldn't see the colors.
We're like, now we got to give that up. All the cards look the same color, just about.
And plus, your hands will get cold.
And So, but I was basically sitting here doing nothing but.
We know it was hard for many Texans. Other people had it worse than we did. We were grateful that we got to stay a night at the hotel and had the money to do that.
Very thankful.
And thankful that we had money to replenish the food that we lost, which we're still replenishing. But and we're grateful that our water pipes didn't burst like some other people's did. We didn't even have a boil order ever. We were always able to use our water. So
people
we're so
pretty
thankful.
Close to us had the boil order, but we didn't.
Yeah. So. And
I'm just thankful, and I was very thankful to Deputy Chief
Gary
Young, of course, for allowing the interview to tell us a little bit about what's going on.
The community really came together. We've seen a lot of times people helping each other. There were people giving away free firewood for people with fireplaces. Just amazing people.
It was so nice to see.
Yes.
So anyway, as we close out this episode of this video, is there any last thing you want to say, last comment before we end this thing?
Just know that this was not something that I ever want to live through again, as I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same way. And I hope that they get fixed what went wrong so that it never does happen again.
Yeah, I know the weather is one thing, which is rarity, but it's the thing that happened with the power. She's talking about that hopefully won't happen again.
Yes.
This has been quite a harrowing ordeal. It was scary. High anxiety, man. Anxiety was high.
Yes.
And I'm just so glad that part of it is over and things have calmed down. I'm able to sleep again. And it's nice to see people helping people in this time.
Yes.
But I know this has been a rather lengthy video, but it's not nearly as lengthy as the time was as we spent without power, having to do nothing but laying in bed.
This is just a short overview, and we excluded some video and pictures that we had just for length of time.
So, anyway,
we hope you enjoyed it and kind of lived through it with us.
This has been your host, the Paulstorian. We're glad that you've been able to come with us and have a look around our disaster time. Anyway, it's time for the Paulstorian to X out. Goodbye.